Hey guys, today I'm here to discuss with you the strategy that we will use this year for answering short answer and extended response questions. Whether you're in reading, science, social studies, no matter where you are, this is the strategy that's going to be used. So make sure you pay close attention and pause and rewind the video as needed. You will need your red reading notebook because you will need to copy down this chart so that you always have it to refer to when you are answering any kind of question that requires you to write an answer and explain how you know that answer, okay? So this is our go-to strategy. As you can see, our goal here is that we can produce writing that is clear, understandable, and fully answers questions. Now, this covers a lot of writing standards, but those few that it really hones in on are W4.4, W4.5, W4.6, and W4.10. And those writing standards just cover you as a fourth grader being responsible for knowing how to create clear, coherent writing. Coherent means it makes sense. It also refers to you being able to write over a variety of content areas. It refers to you being able to answer questions in depth and using the text to identify where you got your answer. So again, we're covering a lot of standards just by making sure we follow this one format, and this one format is going to be our guide for any kind of written responses where we are answering a question that requires us to explain or extend or prove what we know is true. Okay, the strategy that we are using is called RACE, although I've added a little extra at the end, and we'll talk about that when it's time. So RACE is a familiar strategy for a lot of us because whether we know it or not, we've really been using it even in our conversations for a long time, especially those of you who are like me who like to debate and like to prove that we're right. We've been using this for a long time just in our talking. So let's use it in our writing. Let's see how to use it in our writing. Okay, the first step in our strategy, RACE, is to restate the question. So when you're given a question, you're going to turn that question into a statement. Here's our example that we're going to be running with the entire time. I made up a story question. So pretend like we read a story and the dog's name is Jack. And at the end of the story, I ask you the question, where is the dog? I know it seems like a pretty simple question, right? We've probably been asked this question like in real life, especially for those of us who do have dogs. Where's the dog? Has anyone ever been asked that? I know I've asked Malia, my daughter, that, and she usually gives me like a 1 or 2 word response. You know, Malia, where's the dog? Outside. Okay, doing what? Where outside? With who? Why? You know, kind of want a little bit more. So that's the purpose of this strategy. So a simple question such as, where is the dog, can be explained to the point where the person asking the question has no doubt that you know where the dog is. Okay. So the first step in that, again, when you're asked a question, where is the dog? You want to turn the question into a statement. Okay. Instead of saying outside, you want to form a complete sentence. And this is important, especially when you're speaking too. If I walk to you and I say outside, okay, be clear, frame what you're talking about in a complete sentence. So the question is, where's the dog? To begin our response, we should write or say also, the dog is. Okay, and that is simply turning this question using the same words, but we're taking off the question part and we're flipping the words around. We don't have to come up with anything new. Our statement is right there. The dog is. Okay, so that's step one. That's restating. Step two, you want to give an answer. It's not enough to just say the dog is. The dog is what? Okay, you got to answer it. So make sure you give an answer and make sure it's correct. Don't give the wrong answer. If you give the wrong answer, what's the point of answering the question? All right, so let's look at our example. We already know the question is, where's the dog? We started framing our answer. The dog is, now let's answer it. Remember, this is based on a pretend story that I just made up to make this chart. Okay. So the dog is outside playing with sticks. We restated and we provided an answer, and the answer is correct because the dog is indeed outside. Now, in reading, you really are basing a lot of your written responses off of a text. You are given a passage or given a story that you have at your disposal to pull information from. So it is important that when you are answering a question in reading, especially, that you answer the question based on what is in the text. I know a lot of us know a lot. We come to fourth grade with a lot of schema. We've got a lot of background information, and that's great. Reading, when you're answering a question from the text, or you're answering a question about a text, it is the time to pull your answer from the text and not from what you know up here. What you know up here is very important. Don't get me wrong. You need a lot up here. But when you are answering a question about a reading passage, make sure your answer comes from the passage and not from your background knowledge. You got to pull directly from the text. I know that's hard for some of us, like me, who we want to be right. And we already know we know where all the dogs are, in the world. So I can tell you where all of them are. No. Base it on the text. So that's why I base this answer on the text that I created. Okay. So we're going to restate our answer. We're going to begin by restating. We're going to give an answer that is correct from the text. Then we're going to cite our answer, which means we are going to use evidence from the text to prove we're correct. This is my favorite part, y'all. I love to be right, because if you're not right, then you're wrong, and who wants to be wrong? So when it comes to citing our evidence, that's where we really get the real proof. How do you know what you know is true? Okay. Mom asks you, "Where's the dog?" And you say, "The dog is outside playing with sticks." Well, how do you know? Okay. Well, remember, this is from a text, but also you can use this in speaking. So the dog is outside playing with sticks. Notice how I've been underlining each part of my answer so that it's clear which part of race I am doing. So my restate, when I restated here, I underlined it in green. And then when I answered, I underlined the answer part in blue just to clearly show myself that I'm doing each step of RACER. Guys, this is an excellent strategy that we will be using, especially in the first few practices with race. We're going to be color coding them just so that we know we're answering or we're following each part of race. Okay. So back to this. We're using evidence from the text to prove we're correct. All right. So the dog is outside playing with sticks. I know this because the author says in paragraph 3, quote, "Jack laid in the sun with each stick he found," end quote. Quotation marks are your friend, and they are your friend because when you include quotation marks in your answer, what you're showing and what you're doing is you are pulling from the text. You're showing the reader, who is me or whoever's reading your answer, you're showing the reader, hey, not only do I know where the dog is, I'm going to show you from the author's words exactly where the dog is. Not just from the top of my head, because I could have made up that the dog is outside, but I'm going to show you specifically in the text where I found the proof that I'm correct that the dog is outside. Okay. And I could have even been more specific in my answer. I could have not just said the dog is outside playing with sticks. I could have been more specific. And can you think how I could have been more specific with my answer? Because my answer is kind of weak based on my evidence. Because I said my evidence is, I know this because the author says in paragraph 3, Jack laid in the sun with each stick he found. How could I come back up here and beef up my answer and make it a fully responsive answer, an answer that fully answers the question? Anyone thinking maybe I could have added The dog is outside in the sun playing with sticks. Yeah, I could have done that because here in my evidence, it clearly says from the author's words, I pulled it straight from paragraph 3. Jack, who is the dog, laid in the sun with each stick he found. Okay, so I could go back here and beef up my answer and say the dog is outside in the sun playing with sticks. And that way it really ties in my proof that I know exactly where the dog is. Okay, so we got restate, answer, cite, which is your proof. It's where you get to be a right fighter. It's where you get to really prove, hey, I know what I'm talking about. Then you're going to need to explain. And here, when you explain, all you're simply doing is you're telling how your evidence supports your answer. Because by here, when you get to paragraph 3, it says, okay, well, you tell me what it says in paragraph 3. What does it have to do with the dog playing outside in sticks? So you got to further explain, all right, this is how my evidence makes my answer strong and correct. So you're going to tell how your evidence supports your answer. Now, I know this is difficult for you to see, so I'm going to pull this up just a little bit. Pull my screen down just a little bit. Okay. The dog is outside playing with sticks. I know this because the author says in paragraph 3, quote, Jack laid in the sun with each stick he found. There should be an end quote there. I got a little typo myself. This evidence shows that Jack was outside playing with sticks. And that's as simple as that. Okay? So we got restate, answer, cite, explain. Then the last one, the most important one that a lot of us, including adults, forget about is we've got to reread. You've got to go back and make sure that what you wrote makes sense. A lot of times we've got great ideas up here and we rush to get them down on paper. And then when we turn it in, our teacher comes to us and says, I'm not sure what you mean here. This doesn't make any sense. And then so how many of us have gotten our work back and we're looking at it like, oh, snap. Yeah, wow, it really doesn't make sense. That's because we didn't reread. And I'm going to tell you this old secret. Don't tell anyone I told you this. This is a freebie. You don't have to pay me for this. This is free. If you reread your work out loud, and you have the luxury of doing that at home, you can read out loud. If you reread what you have written or typed out loud, you're going to catch mistakes if there are any. Because there's a connection in the brain that allows us to magically find our mistakes if we are reading as if we're presenting. I don't know. The brain is a peculiar organ, and I wish I had the expertise to tell you why this happens. But take it from an old lady. When you read stuff out loud and you read it to other people or you read it to yourself in the mirror or however you choose to read it, you're usually likely to catch your mistakes if you really slow down and pay attention to the words that you're reading. So when you reread your writing, you're reading to find mistakes. You're reading to see if you can add and make your answer stronger, just like what I did when I said, this answer is kind of weak because I could have added in the sun and made it even stronger with just those 2 extra words. Okay. So you're rereading to make sure your answer makes sense, to make sure that you've answered all parts of the questions, because there could be more than one part to a question. And you're rereading to make sure that you caught any spelling mistakes, any grammar mistakes, anything that you need to catch before you submit and say, this is a 100% A+ superstar answer. You're catching those mistakes before you present it as your superstar race answer. So this is our strategy that we will be using for all written responses across all content areas. It is restate, answer, cite, explain, reread. So from henceforth, now and forevermore, we will call this strategy RACER. And that is how we will keep track of making our distinguished answers to ERQs and SAQs, extended response questions and short answer questions.